And that's after Saturday's Right to Reply.
Hello and welcome to Right to Reply, the programme which gives you the chance to speak your mind about the television programmes you watch. If you see anything on any of the channels that you don't like, let us know and we'll follow it up. Later in this programme we hear from Los Angeles, from two of the stars of the highly popular Land of the Giants series. But first, this week's comments from the video box. To begin with, two viewers from Liverpool who weren't happy with the portrayal of Liverpudlians in the popular comedy series Bread, about the Boswell family, which has just finished on BBC One.
And I'm Barry Kushner. And we are sick to death of all this criticism of Bread. And people marched down from Jarrow to raise the issue of unemployment. And we've come here all the way from Liverpool to say that Bread is an accurate portrayal of Liverpool life.
I mean, the characters in Bread are like people from our own families.
I mean, look at the grandad next door. He's exactly like my dad.
And the fact they use local actors with authentic Liverpool accents.
I mean, there really is a character in Liverpool. He's got blonde hair, he's got black leather trousers, he's got a Vodafone, a black Jaguar, and he's unemployed.
Whereas that Brookside, they're always arguing, they're always serious, they're always moaning, they're always depressed.
I mean, OK, Liverpool people are poor, but they're chipper.
There goes Janet Sussman.
Who's that?
Trevor Nunn's wife.
Anyway, I mean, people in Rio, I mean, they're poor, aren't they? I mean, children get whipped off the street, but they're happy, they dance.
Bread should run and run and run. In fact, I think there should be a full-length feature film in there to reach a wider audience.
And we'd like to thank Carla Lane and everyone at Channel 4 for giving us this opportunity to say so. I mean, if it bends, it's funny.
If it breaks, it's not funny.
Not funny.
Last week's 40 Minutes on BBC Two was called It's Eileen, and it told the story of Eileen Allen, a retired teacher who cares for 6 of her relatives, all of them over 80.
When there is caring to be done, the main burden almost always falls on one woman in the family. Because one of her sisters lives 100-odd miles away and the other can't drive, Eileen has more than her fair share. As well as her 86-year-old mother-in-law, there are her cousins, 3 stalwart sisters, octogenarians all. Old folks seem to be your speciality.
Oh, no, they're not my speciality. From choice. I'm a speciality because I'm left with them, so to speak. It's a case of having to. If there's no one else available and they appeal to you, you can't just turn your back and say, no, I'm not interested. And they all think that it's not much that they ask. And I suppose really it isn't much that each individual asks. But it's multiplied by 6.
We were contacted by Margaret Unwin of the National Carers Association, who felt that interesting though Eileen's story was, it wasn't representative of the lot of carers as a whole.
Eileen's story illustrated the moral pressure which people feel to take on the care of relatives. Society's expectations are that we should take care of our own. For women particularly, caring is seen as an extension of our role, and it is assumed we will be available and willing to take it on. Eileen was in many ways not a typical carer. For a start, she was looking after 6 people. Though her life was restricted, she was still able to get out and about and do other things. This is not true for many carers who have their dependent living with them and whose lives are severely restricted. They are tied to the needs of the person they care for and suffer great strains emotionally, physically and financially. The programme touched on the lack of choice which carers have. They are in no sense volunteers. Most want to care but are not prepared for what they take on. The state still provides little support and most carers have no idea where to go for help. I suspect the programme makers used Eileen exactly because she was looking after 6 people and it made good television. There were other stories which might have been told and which might have allowed a deeper analysis of the issues. There was an accent on the superhuman element in caring, which most carers find unhelpful. They do a necessary job and are seeking recognition and support, not an award for saintliness.
In recent weeks, Channel 4 has been screening a series of programmes called And the Walls Came Tumbling Down, documenting the momentous changes in Eastern Europe this past year. On Monday, Jan Dabrowski's film Changing the Guard looked at how the Czech secret police have adapted to the upheaval in Czechoslovakia and alleged that during the Cold War they had infiltrated and then used as a front various organisations such as the International Organisation of Journalists, the IOJ.
The IOJ's real purpose was no secret to those who worked there. Even now they won't speak openly.
MON sloužila, podniky MONu, které vydělávaly relativně hodně peněz, sloužily k čištění peněz.
A jakým způsobem k tomu čištění peněz mohlo docházet?
MON má svoje konta v západním Německu a tam prostřednictvím třeba i cestovní kanceláře, jejíž tedy pohyb peněz na kontě cestovní kanceláře je poněkud nejasný.
The IOJ was set up in the 1950s at the height of the Cold War to serve as a vehicle for communist propaganda. Now, in an effort to move with the times, the organization has appointed its first non-Czech Secretary General, a Frenchman, Gérard Gatineau.
Last Tuesday, Channel 4 joined in a smear campaign against the International Organisation of Journalists. A reporter from a right-wing Prague daily told us that the IOJ was set up in the 50s to serve as a vehicle for communist propaganda. This is nonsense. In fact, the IOJ was set up in July 1946 in Copenhagen by wartime Allied journalists from 21 countries, before the Cold War even started. Channel 4's reporter said the IOJ has just appointed its first non-Czech secretary. This too is nonsense. The first General Secretary was Australian, the first president was British, and the current president is from Finland. IOJ leaders include journalists from 120 countries, mostly from the Third World. Channel 4's reporter puts forward the bizarre claim that the IOJ is really an instrument of the Czechoslovak secret police. His evidence is the revelation that the IOJ is commercially successful and ran bank accounts in West Germany. It's true that the IOJ runs some very successful media businesses. It's precisely this independent income which allows the IOJ to keep a necessary distance from government. The programme named 2 IOJ journalists as intelligence agents. No proof was offered and no chance given for these people to refute the allegations. At best, this is very sloppy journalism. At worst, witch hunting. But it's also dangerous. Call a reporter a spy and they can finish up dead, or like John McCarthy, banged up in a hostage prison cell. Channel 4 has a responsibility for balance and for truth. If their programme makers have evidence, they should put up or shut up, and their targets should have the right to reply.
On Tuesday, Channel 4's programme for the over 55s, Third Wave, held its first studio discussion of the series, and it looked at the role of the elderly within the family structure and what happens to older people if they have to leave their own homes.
I want to go back to our oldest residential person here, who is Olive Burridge, who is actually 103. Tell me something about where you live.
Well, I lived on my own until I was 100.
Goodness.
And I did everything for myself, apart from having a home help once a week.
And how did you come to go into the home? Just
because
got too
I
much?
was taken ill. No, I was ill.
Ah.
Homesick on Tuesday afternoon, I watched Channel 4's Third Wave programme. It didn't help relieve my fever. Andre Mellet, the programme's presenter, was nervous, insensitive, obstructive and patronising. Perhaps we can forgive her nerves, although any half-sensible comments she did make clearly came via her earpiece. But there, my sympathy stops. Andre thinks it's her show. The guests merely fill the gaps when she stops bumbling. When she asks a question, she never listens to the answer, just delivers her next line. Andre talked of old people like pets and talked to them like infants. You're 103 and lived on your own until you were 100. That's wonderful. The swiftness of the lady's reply made me think she should have been asking the questions. TV programmes for and about the elderly should be led by that generation. Fine, have a young presenter, but let her take a less obtrusive role. The programme guests managed to highlight some depressing realities about homelessness and lack of care for the elderly. Andre hadn't been listening. Oh well, let's hope it all sorts itself out somehow. Yes, Andre, let's hope.
Well done, Jez. Now, viewers who are blind or partially sighted often contact Right to Reply to complain that their enjoyment of foreign programmes is ruined if these are subtitled rather than dubbed. And John Warwicker, who's registered blind, contacted us about the issue this week in response to another viewer's comment on the BBC complaints programme, Points of View.
Looking forward to 1992, etc., why does the BBC insist on dubbing over foreign languages? What is wrong with subtitles?
There are up to 1 million people in the United Kingdom who are registered blind, as many again who are registered partially sighted, and probably just as many again who have difficulty in reading subtitles on television programmes. Anne Robinson, in Points of View, had a complaint from a viewer there was insufficient subtitles used, too much dubbing on news programmes. Now, news programmes and documentaries, international documentaries on environmental and political issues, are the one programme that blind people can appreciate and understand. We rely very much on the voiceover or the dubbing. Take that away and the programmes are virtually useless to us. And I appeal to those who are responsible for making those programmes, please, please save the voiceover. It's so very, very important to a very large minority of people in this country whose only form of entertainment is the documentaries on the various channels.
Now, if you see a programme which you don't like or disagree with, or a programme which you think has got its facts wrong, then get in touch with us at Right to Reply. We deal with all the 4 terrestrial channels, BBC One and BBC Two, ITV and Channel 4, and satellite television as well. You can write to us at 60 Charlotte Street, London, W1P2AX. Or you can phone us on 071 631 4444. If it's at the weekend, your call will be taken on our answering machine and we'll get back to you if necessary. Or you can come into one of our video boxes around the country to record your comments. Call us and we'll give you details on where they are and how to use them. Now, in just a moment, we hear from fans of Land of the Giants, and we get the latest news from 2 of its stars, Gary Conway and Deanna Lund, in Los Angeles. The last episode in the 1960s science fiction series, Land of the Giants, was recently shown on Channel 4. It was hugely popular with viewers and regularly rated in the top 5 of Channel 4's programmes. Now, Land of the Giants is like a modern-day Gulliver's Travels. The year is 1983, and in 1960 that seemed a long time into the future. And the spaceship Spindrift, with 7 passengers and crew, is on a routine flight from California to London when suddenly it passes through a mysterious white cloud and lands in a world where everything is 12 times larger.
Bert and the Spindrift. Bert and the Spindrift. Are you there, Dan? Dan, do you read me? What's wrong? Stay out of there.
Don't worry, I won't buy it without my lawyer's advice.
Dan, are you? I told you to stay out of there.
Don't you ever listen to anyone? We don't know what kind of place.
Now what?
Keep trying to shout.
Calling Spindrift. Come in, Spindrift. Come in. Do you hear me? Do you hear me?
In the final episode, the little people, as the Earthlings are called, are left stranded in the land of the giants. Now, many viewers called Channel 4 to ask whether this was the end of the story and to voice their disappointment at having sent their heroes safely returned to the planet Earth. Well, in the studio, I have some of the little people of Giants Log, which is the Land of the Giants Appreciation Society. We have Jeremy Baum, Arthur Delworth, Jeanette Jorgala, and Louis Lafrancois. Well, Jeanette is the main mover behind Giants Log and pretty much an expert on Land of the Giants. Why do you think it was left so open-ended?
The main reason was money. The Owen Allen, who created the show, hoped to take the show on to a third season, but the money just didn't come through for that, so they left it pretty much where it ended in the second season.
Why do you think viewers care so much about the characters in Land of the Giants?
Very much because of the rapport between the characters and the integrity and the moral fibre of the show.
Well, it's family viewing.
Very much family viewing, yes, and the way everybody works well together.
Arthur, no offence, but aren't you a little bit old for all this?
No, I don't think so. I think it just amplifies the range that can enjoy the show. And the reason I got into it was that my two young grandchildren, Derek and Debbie, come down to me on a Sunday, and they enjoy watching that show. There's no sex, violence, or mayhem. There's no embarrassment for me watching it with my young grandchildren, which pleases me greatly. And, of course, the reason I'm into it is that my 18-year-old granddaughter, Gail, couldn't think what to give me for my 67th birthday. And she saw an advert in the paper and thought this would be a good birthday present for my granddad and sent off the form, and I'm very pleased to be a member.
And that made you happy?
It made me very happy.
Louis, what do you think makes the characters in Land of the Giants so special?
Because they're in such a predicament every week. Yeah, the constant sense of danger, which is sort of prevailing over them. Yeah, they've just got to fight to survive all the time.
Are you a bit of a science fiction freak, are you?
Oh, yeah, definitely. I think Land of the Giants, considering it was a show made in the late 60s, early 70s, using the special effects that it did, just enhanced the effect of the show even more. Yeah, I would say it's equally as good a series as, say, a programme like Star Trek, for example.
So it compared well and had very good effects and so on?
Oh, yeah, definitely, yeah. Definitely.
Jeremy, what about you? I mean, how do you feel about the fact that there'll be no more instalments of Land of the Giants?
I was, like, very sad because I enjoyed the series each week because it was very exciting. And I'd like to know what happened to them. Did they get back to Earth or did they stay on the Land of the Giants? So I'd like to see a story to say what had happened to all of them.
It's not very satisfying having no end, is it?
No.
Well, Jeremy, I think we might have some good news for you and all the other fans of Land of the Giants, because I'm about to speak to the stars of the show, Gary Conway and Deanna Lund, in Los Angeles. Oh, Gary and Deanna from Land of the Giants, what are you up to?
Learning our lines.
Learning your lines? But isn't Land of the Giants over?
Over. It'll never be over.
It's not going to be over until the fat giant sings.
Actually, we're spending most of our time answering our fan mail.
I don't think, have we ever had more letters and cards than now?
To the greatest fans in the world, from any world, the Land of the Giants.
You know, not only is Giants so popular in England, but it's wherever it plays, in any country, it's always the top series.
And now it's going to be the first show to play on a regular basis in the Soviet Union.
That's right.
So that's great. Oh, but you know, our fans in the UK, they're really very special. And I think it's because they really appreciate the uniqueness of our show.
That's right.
Well, Jeremy and the other fans here want to know if we'll ever see Land of the Giants on the big screen.
Right. You know, that's the #1 question now.
Well?
Well, we've been told there's a major film in the works, right?
Right, and in fact, you know, it'll take science fiction into a whole new, incredible dimension.
That sounds great. Can you tell us more?
Stay tuned. You'll be the first to know.
Special attention, eh? Well, your fans here will be delighted about that. What's wrong? What's wrong? What's up? Where are you going? What's the problem?
We had a real close shave yesterday.
Steve, should we get going?
Yeah.
Hold on. Are your fans here in Britain ever likely to see you here? Will Spindrift ever make it to London?
I think that's where we're headed.
When?
Soon. Bert and a Spindrift. Bert and a Spindrift.
Well, it looks like they're in a bit of a fix, but I'm sure they'll get out of it, as ever. Well, Jeremy, that sounds like good news, a feature film.
Yeah, it'll be brilliant. The technology, when the series first came out, was brilliant, but now, with the technology we've got now, with the special effects, it'll be even better.
So you're looking forward to that?
Yeah, I am.
And what about you, Louis, the news of the possibility, at least, let's hope the probability, of a visit of the stars?
Oh, I should look forward to it if they do eventually come over to have a convention or whatever. That'd be really great, really good.
Arthur?
Yes, well, I'm like Louis. I think it'd be great as well, and I hope they remember that they've got fans all over Great Britain.
I think it's fantastic for everybody, and I'd like to thank Channel 4 on behalf of everybody who belongs to Giants Log and all fans of Land of the Giants for showing it and bringing it back to us.
Well, thank you. We do our best. Thank you, Jeremy, Arthur, Jeanette, and Louis. Well, that sounds like good news for all Land of the Giants fans. Oh, and just in case you're worried, we will make sure that our little friends get back to normal size before they leave the studio. No risk of you stepping on them in that case. Last week, we featured two viewers, Warren Newman and Dr. Michael Ward, both of whom had bought BSB equipment, and they were worried about the consequences of BSB's merger with Sky. They had two worries, the standard of programming and the technical quality of programs. The BSB satellite is technically further advanced than Sky's older Astra satellite. Last week, the IBA, which licenses the satellite to BSB, claimed that viewers' concerns would be among their priorities, but they hadn't yet taken any action over the merger. Well, just to keep you up to date, the IBA met on Thursday and issued a statement which said that BSB had breached its contract, and the IBA is entitled, in consequence of the merger, to terminate that contract and intends to do so. It considers that immediate termination would not be in the interests of viewers of BSB services and will accordingly engage in further discussions with BSB regarding transitional arrangements prior to issuing the notice, which will set the termination date for BSB's program contract. The statement went on to say that the shadow ITC, which takes over from the IBA in January, will in due course invite other proposals for BSB's frequencies. Well, that's all from Right to Reply for this week. Remember, if there's anything you want to say about the television you watch, call us at Right to Reply on 071 631 4444. Until the same time next week, from Right to Reply, good night.